Okay, so today, um, like I was telling Alka, I couldn't think of just one object that I wanted to do with your batch because this batch I think has done so many things that I felt now we are ready to tackle still life. Funnily enough, still life is taken up as a formal subject very early on, and I feel sometimes that maybe it's not the right time. Simply because when you tackle still life, we get so caught up in trying to recreate the objects the way we see them that we miss out on at least two components that still life is meant to help you enjoy art. One is the subtle compositions. There are certain things in still life that we learn about placing objects, understanding negative space around it, and how it can create chaos or clutter, or within what seems like chaotic clutter, it can also have balance, and there can be a certain flow in the objects. Now, these things are so subjective and so ephemeral that only when somebody draws a line across, you'll say, now I see what you mean. But that may not be the only way to look at it. But that I feel that is like a veil, one behind the other. The first hurdle is just being comfortable with drawing objects. The more you draw those objects, that veil just moves, and then you have the next one. The next one becomes proportion and placement, which also now you're comfortable with. So you're not going to be intimidated by how do I place this in front of the other. You know about distance and about depth, so then that veil is revealed. So once these are removed, then you start seeing how these objects are interacting with each other and how the context of balance and composition can make sense to you. This has to be an instinctive learning, and this is what then you will use when you are composing your pages. You don't necessarily need this only to compose still life. Like when Alka is composing her calendar, where exactly do you place that bird and why? Has a reason. And that reason, I mean, there can be different ways that you can place it, but that reason comes from a very firm understanding of balance and composition. And you start becoming more and more confident of that as you take on more and more composition studies. The second thing in this is also the play of light. Very often, when we make single objects, we take one light source and you see how that light plays on that object, then you have a shadow. But then, when you have a bunch of objects together, all those objects are interacting with each other. So, transparent objects are seeing other objects through them. There are reflective objects that are reflecting existing objects on top of their surface, shadows that are falling not just below the object that we are drawing, but on another surface which is right next to it. And that surface could be either flat, it could be shiny, it could be undulating because it's fabric, it could have texture. So there's a whole lot of this light and shadow interplay, which can be done best in a still life composition. So these are the two factors we can hope to learn today. Everything else you'll be able to do it. I don't have too much of a problem with that. So what we'll try and do is make some loose studies. I don't want to do like a very firm still life that you will be able to do during the week. But I want to do more loose studies to understand texture, color, composition. We'll draw some lines, a little bit of shading, and then just slapping on some color and shadow. So these are typically sketches which artists have made as studies for the same painting they want to make on a large scale. want you to be able to do that. The large study, given enough time, you will be able to do. That's very ironic that one would think that that would be the more difficult task to do, but the study is, I sometimes feel, something that everyone struggles with and doesn't do it and spends four times as much time doing your final work. So, goes without saying, we want to avoid erasers during the study. There are going to be multiple lines. I want you to try to keep your hand light and loose. And in order to do that, just consider how you are seated. Like in the Friday calligraphy class, I corrected everyone's posture because very often we sit in the writing position, which would be something like this. Your book is over here, you are leaning and you're hunched, and this is what you're doing. In this constricted position, there is very little freedom. Your line is only going to be dictated by your posture. But if you sit well anchored, you can hold your book like this, hold it at an angle a little further away, then there's room for your hand to dance around the page. We're not going to make very large pictures. On this one sheet, we will make two small images, one on the top left, one on the bottom right, so that there is enough room. So, and we might even do one large one in 2/3 of the page, but not the entire page. That one you can make later in your time. So let's look at the images. So in this, I'd like you to notice a few things. I'm going to show you with lines what the line, balance, composition, all those mumbo jumbo things I was talking about, how they reveal themselves. But I'd like you to look at, when you see this image, see how your eye moves. It will definitely zero in on one particular item first and swiftly move to another item, then maybe to the next two items. It has received all the information in the first go, but it will still move from one to the other to the next, and then possibly go back to the first place or the second place. So this is something that we are not even aware our eye is doing. And at least in my opinion, a good painting is one which can arrest the eye longest. You'll often notice that you are attracted to a painting not necessarily because of its skill. Sometimes it can be because of the subject, but sometimes, especially when you take things like abstract art or things like still life, where you're not recognizing a person, you go past the skill in making it look like a real object. There is something in it that will make your eye stay there longer. A good composition receives and allows the eye to rest with it comfortably for a long time, and there is a sense of pleasure that you feel. Let's try the next one. I'm going to move to that, but I want you to be ready to just see what you notice first in that picture and just make a note of it. Okay, I saw the orange first. How many of you all saw the orange first? And then my eye moved from the orange to the apple to the big rusted teapot, and then the whole picture revealed itself.
I think I saw the apple and orange together, like
Ah,
popped out.
okay, let's try this again with the next one.
For me, apple first and then the lamp
Yeah,
and then the paper.
Me as well, correct.
yeah.
How interesting, no? Now I'll tell you how the balances work. I don't have annotation. So balances work with just a flow or some lines. Like in this case, you will see a line that goes like this. Do you recognize that Fibonacci? It starts off like a smaller oval, and you can almost imagine that this could have gone like this. So it's just the tops of the objects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the way they have been placed, I see it in this flow. Like I keep saying, this is not the only way you would see it. There are many other ways that you would see as well. Now, the next one can be you have like these connections. So in a way, you have these lines in different, it's pretty much like a Fibonacci, but the lines are not clashing. What would happen if we put a line like this, or a line, the spoon upright like that? It might have worked. Maybe not, because an upright spoon, an upright bottle, this might have closed the composition, whereas this fellow allows the eye all this negative space, which is opening the composition up completely. Then you have lines like these. In this as well, you see that all the alignments seem to be mostly left leaning. One might argue, what about this? This is right leaning. Then in that case, how is this contrast? This is not bad either. So you have one line going straight up, then you have some line going outward here, then outward there's some kind of radial thing happening here, and then you have one more line out. If I were to extend this any further, this might even clash, but it perhaps does not look bad, again because there is this opening here. So it's not creating chaos. Let's not forget also that we have some balance with all this white space here. We have a nice solid base. I'm not particularly fond of stuff that is kept on the horizontal. This is very horizontal for my taste. I would have definitely kept this bag at an angle to create just a little more interest. But that horizontal bag is giving nice solid base undeniably, and that seems to be working as well. Okay, so are you seeing this? Are you seeing the lines? This is a very studied concept, and I think this is what many artists take pride in, being able to see this. In here, are you able to see the Fibonacci? Yeah, it goes in the other direction. You have apple to cup to teapot, orange, and then directing outward by the knife. Isn't it beautiful? Now, when you see it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Let's see the next one. So all of these compositions you'll see are open compositions. There are U shapes and round shapes. Let's try something interesting here. Let's see. So let's look at the negative space here. You have a negative space here, here, and here. And within that we have our subject. Then with the subject again, we have one upright object that gives us stability. We have one horizontal object. This gives us a nice grounding. And then we have these lines. I'm drawing a line from the lantern to the apple. uh, they're placed at an angle like this. Then you have a horizontal angle of whatever these are, books or bricks. And then you have an even more. Oh, this is such a beautiful composition. Are you able to see it now? It's so nice. And all these lines of the folds, the fabric, all of them add to the beauty of the composition. So, in this way, I feel sometimes that beauty is can have some principles, some rules. To test this out, after class is done today, as it being Sunday, in the afternoon, if you have time, take some of these things out. You need a fruit, you need a maybe a bottle, and just put stuff together on a table and see if you can make some composition. Stand far away and at 90-degree angle click a picture of that composition and study it and see how it looks. Then you can start making your own pictures as well. The lighting will be different, and lighting can make a big difference. These pictures have been clicked with real proper spotlights, so that kind of harsh light is possible if you've got like an evening sun coming through a window, so then it can cast very distinct shadows on your object. But do give it a shot. At least as far as the composition is concerned, you should be able to take stuff together from your just stuff around you and compose it. All right, let's try making the first composition. Like I said, let's not make the composition too large. Let's practice two such compositions, one up here and one down here. Right now, don't worry about the size. Just visualize where half your page is and take up that much space. This is a study. So, studies can be messy looking, not disorganized messy, but just general messy is perfectly fine. Okay, so our composition is in a rectangular space, so we will make some rectangle. Usually it's 1 is to 1.6. This is not 1 is to 1.6, it's 1.25, I think. You know how to count that. And then just below half, we have this line. Then we have a line for the pot. This is our the line of the table. Line for the pot. It's a little right of the center. Then we have a line for the bag. The top of the bag is different, the front of the bag is different. Then we have the table on which it rests. So this part can be best drawn with just straight lines. And for everything else, then first you can make a vertical, then make circle, and then the rest of the shape. Okay, so this is the kind of very sketchy picture you'll start getting. Once we have all this ready, it'll be easy to now draw the specific details. Wherever you have a soft line, like the line of this, the fold of this bag, just draw. Actually, don't even bother drawing. Keep it light. And where you don't see an edge, don't make that edge. Many of these drawings will be easier to draw if you sit back in your chair and you'll keep your book upright and look, or keep the reference image right in the same plane as your book and your eye. And if you don't see certain details in the preliminary stage, don't make them. Don't um, blow up the picture and see the details. Draw whatever you can see from a distance till a point that you have finished most of the drawing part, and then you can enlarge and look at the details. The final goal for still life is to make your painting looks exactly like the photograph or exactly like the object. So this is an effort to start seeing these objects as close to how they are. And in that, there will be a few things that you know are there, but you actually do not see them. That's all a trick of the mind. And at this level, you should be able to tell the difference. That is what changes your drawing from being a graphic to a more realistic looking painting. There is a fold on the fabric on the right over here. In one place, you don't see that fold, but you can tell it's a fold only when the shadow of the pear reveals that information over here. So don't make that line on this side. This takes me back to the time when we did that glass of water. I don't know if I mentioned that in your batch, but this is something that I have been challenged once by a friend of mine saying that let's see how good an artist you are. Why don't you draw a glass? He was holding a glass of whiskey and he said, okay, why don't you draw this and show me? Let's see how good you are. And he was a very old friend of mine. So this is all in jest, but he said, I have to know how you do it. And that's why I'm challenging you. And This is a common thing, misconception in people who are non-artists, that you are drawing the object. You are drawing something on paper to create the illusion of that object. There's a difference. So when I have to draw the glass of whiskey, I'm not drawing the glass as much as the lines and the shape and the color of the liquid, what I see through it. I'm not seeing the glass because it is transparent, but the existence of the glass is um, evidenced, is proved just by the distortion of light that goes through it. So when I showed it to him, he said, "No, this is cheating. You've not drawn the glass." I said, "No, I have drawn lines which convince you that that is a glass. That is what I have to do. The glass you are seeing, I'm not showing it to you." So, in the same way, over here, there will be a few things you see and a few things you perceive. So, by now, you will be able to get rid of that, the objects that you perceive or the shapes that you think are there, but actually they might not be. So, you will be able to draw much more cleverly. Hi, Susan. Are you here?
Yes, Aditi, I'm here.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I got late because I came back from church only now.
I figured that, yeah, yeah. So the reason I was giving everyone the reason why we are doing bunch of objects, because I felt that your batch has done all the objects that I could think of. So I decided we can now tackle still life.
Okay. Yeah. Still life is, of course, a favorite.
We haven't really done still life as much, I think. We've just
Yeah.
done those collections of fruit and
Hmm.
vegetables or things like that, but we've not done too many of these object drawings, I felt. And I think now the time is good because we have done everything else, I felt. And of course, that also means that for the next objects class, please tell me what are the things that we've not done that I can't think of, because I have done many objects in other batches.
Right. You know what, Aditi? I am part of these collaboration groups. You know that choose a topic and paint it month after month and all that.
Uh-huh.
So I'm part of this group that, and last month they selected November. They selected by common consensus. They selected woodland creatures. Okay, so
Oh, that's
yeah,
so
it
cute.
was it is very cute. And woodland creatures are, for the first time, I actually paid attention to what are woodland creatures as opposed to regular
Wild
wildlife. And
animals.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So foxes, raccoons, reindeer, those kind of stuff. That kind of
Right.
stuff. It's mostly something we are not familiar with because it's mostly northern hemisphere that's has
Right.
more woodland. But what happened was, despite all the reference photos I managed to collect, I
Mhm.
couldn't bring myself to paint. I don't know what it was. Some kind of an innocence. I mean, we have done furry creatures before many times.
Huh.
I was not able, like, for example, I took a raccoon. A raccoon, I don't know, it has the black and the whites and the grays,
Right.
and they are in some kind of, line like structure on the face and all that. I wasn't sure why I could not bring myself to give that raccoon a good look, And this is still at sketching point. I had not yet gotten to paint. So then I abandoned the raccoon and I went to a fox. I went on to a fox. And a fox, I drew the fox out and I said, okay, this time I'm not going to stop. I actually put paint to it. And it looked disastrous. The eyes of the fox, I don't know what it was. It
Okay.
was really horrible. And then
Oh my God. That's
Yeah,
strange.
I don't know why that boggled me so badly. So
You should share the picture now. I'm very curious.
yeah,
What do you mean that it's gone bad? You've done
I'll show you my
so
fox. He looks
obvious.
like he's really sly. He's so
Oh
sly.
God.
I
You
missed the end of the story. Sorry, what happened? You grew up off?
Yeah, I drew a fox from a reference picture, and
Huh.
he looks so horrible. I mean, even Disney would not come up with a fox that looked as horrible as me,
That's
my fox.
fine.
So what was the thing that was preventing you
I
from
don't know what
drawing?
it was. I'm really not sure because I don't know if it was a fur that upset me that I need to draw fine with a fine brush the strokes, and which we've done that we've done that with birds and so many things, but I don't know why it didn't appeal to me, or and mind you, the animals are so appealing. I had too many reference photos that I wanted to sketch. So I was
Uh-huh.
wondering, how is it that sometimes a subject can boggle you so much?
Mm-hmm.
It's quite straightforward.
Have you shared that image or you're going to
Oh,
share it later? Then I
let me
can
see.
look at that and I understand what you
Yeah,
mean.
I know what you mean. No, I have to now find that piece of paper I drew it on.
Okay.
It was so disgusting. I was creeped out by the fox.
Oh
So
my God.
I told the group, finally, this is the first time I'm not submitting an artwork, but
Um,
I am not happy. It was not good at all. I'll find it. I'll find it and I'll take a photo of that fox.
okay, okay.
That
Okay,
funny
so
fox.
I'll let me try and see if any of these conditions work. Sometimes it is just literally the time of the day, time of the month thing.
Mm.
You can't predict it. Some days are good, some days are better, and some days some things just don't work. So if it was done on just any one day, it could be that day. It happens to me as well. My hand does not move, and try as I may, it takes me 4 5 trials to do the one thing. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I can do this. Why is it not happening?
Yeah.
So it could just be a heaviness of hand. That is one thing. Now let's take the physiology out. Sometimes it could be that unbeknownst to you, the reference image is not pleasing or not the best that you would think would work. Like, for example, when it comes to animals, there are certain postures of animals that make the animal look like it.
Mm.
And if you don't get that posture, if you get another one,
Mm.
uh, it is often the case that whatever you draw, it looks like there's something wrong. Like sometimes you will see beautiful little fawns that are following the deer, but they have an awkward walk. In a photograph, they look fine. When you draw the picture, it looks like it's lame,
Yeah.
like foot is cut, or it's just like,
Yeah.
what is wrong? What is happening here on paper? I can't tell. So in that case, very often the culprit could be shading.
Oh.
So if you've just made a line drawing, don't judge the line drawing till you
Mm.
shade and till you fill up with texture. So if you've already started judging, then you land up failing yourself because you've not identified what could make the difference. Shading through either just darkness or through texture or through just levels of grays can make a big difference to that line, how it looks.
Right.
That is, in my experience, how my animals have suddenly from lame, they become not so lame and just in
Yeah.
action.
I guess it is.
It could be that. Other than that, it's of course sometimes there's just the wrong stroke in the wrong place when you're painting it that you can't cover up. And it's the usuals are always there. The usual suspects are putting something in the wrong position, wrong proportion, all that is always there.
Mhm.
So at your level, I think you won't have that problem. So I'm thinking it could be the first two. It could just be a bad day when the hand is not doing what you want it to. And
Yeah.
second is that maybe you were judging it a little earlier than you might have, and then you said, okay, this is like a lost cause. It's just no matter
Maybe.
what I do, it's not going to repair it, and it's not going
Yes.
to repair it, and then it doesn't. It's
Yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense.
Possible, possible. I couldn't identify what it was that boggled me
Ah,
because the pictures were beautiful. Woodland creatures were very pretty, and I was attracted to certain pictures instantly. Like it wasn't a delayed, okay, fine, I'll settle for this. No, there were some pictures that were really beautiful, and I just wanted to draw it, and it got. So I was worried whether it was the background that upset me. Sometimes what happens is when I look at a landscape and it's busy, it's a busy landscape with too much of foliage, and I
hmm,
look at it and I get a little overwhelmed by how can I draw all of this now?
right.
That happens to me often. I know that happens to me, especially when I'm looking at a reference photo and someone says, paint this,
Hmm.
and I'm like, paint, how do I start? Where do I start? So
Ah,
much. There's so
yeah,
much. Then you take that focal element, whatever it is that you want to start with. Start with,
right.
then the rest comes in.
Correct,
But
correct.
somehow for this, I don't know. Then I was the only one who did not submit. Everybody else did
Oh,
fabulous work and lovely, lovely foxes. I saw lovely raccoons,
uh,
but I was just I don't know what. It's the first time it's happened to me, so I was a little I was wonderstruck. Why would this happen?
But it's
mhm.
always now that you're talking, Susan, it strikes me that it's always slightly difficult to get the animals because most often you have to draw both the eyes and get the proportion of the face correct, and
Yeah.
that makes a big difference. Whereas I've been drawing birds, when you draw birds, you're drawing only one eye,
Mm.
so it's easier. You get that one eye right, and it's fine. But to
Mm.
get two eyes right
Mm. Very true.
is and that if it doesn't come properly, it completely alters the expression,
Yeah. Very
which
true.
will totally mess up your. No matter
Yeah. Yeah.
how perfect the rest of the this thing is, if the eyes are not, I mean, that is what I feel,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that is what I find difficult about drawing animals. Also, is the symmetry part of it.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, there are
that
lots of reasons why things might not work out, and all these are valid. The eyes are a big one.
Yeah. So my fox's
so
eyes were definitely off, and he was at an angle, so the snout was like
so then
sitting out, and there was one part of the eye visible, but the main part is this eye. So you have one eye which is facing you, and the other eye which is after,
yeah.
and that I mean now he looks like a creep of a fox.
So because then he
So
ends up looking either squint-eyed or
I
cockeyed
know.
or
Yeah.
something.
It's so funny.
Okay, so this is, I'm just going to make a quick screenshot of the drawing before shading and painting. All right. So now at this stage, all the construction lines are still there. Don't erase those if they are not too bad. But you can now start building the. Uh, wait, there's a word for this. This is called. Oh, how the word just came and went in my brain. Oh, damn it. I'm going to blame all my forgetfulness on it being Sunday today. So I'm basically blocking this with a very light tone first. Like we have color blocking. There is a word for this. Why am I not remembering it? Anyway, doesn't matter. It doesn't change what I'm doing. So wherever I see the same tone, I will start putting that tone in. Uh, so let's say we are now putting some kind of very light shadow on all the areas where there is no highlight. So in this way, we are identifying and um, blocking the spots where we have a highlight. And instead of going in with dark shadows right in the beginning, we can make uh, just the lightest stroke we need to, and then build on that with more layers of Again, more light strokes. The shadow on the tallest vase is very tricky. So don't look at it as a shadow. Look at it as dark colors, or just pixelate it and see where you see a dark shade, a medium dark shade, and that has nothing to do literally with the object as much as the material it's made of. So, where you expect it to be really dark, there's a little reflected light. The creases on the fabric can be very painful. Now, in this case, we are not acknowledging the backdrop at all. I'm not going to paint it, not yet. I'm just going to paint the elements in the foreground, just for this one. So, in the creased fabric, you will see large sections of shadow. First, make those. Don't let the creases distract you. And then all these fruit also will have a shadow. Notice how there is a reflected highlight on the pear at the bottom here.
Hmm.
That is the light off of falling off of the fabric. But this is so interesting that the shadow of the pear falls on the fabric, but the reflected light from this area, not even here, falls onto the pear over this area. This is why sometimes I feel that still life is for nerds. Because who is going to enjoy the way light falls on an inanimate object that you don't recognize, is not your grandmother, and still enjoy that? That is what happens in physics, and spend hours trying to recreate it. Now, since we are doing the shading in pencil, we may be able to completely do away with shading in paint. We might have the opportunity to paint maybe a shadow in blue or something like that, but let's see. So the second layer of shading would, you can change the direction of your pencil so that it becomes deeper, but the pressure can remain the same. This takes us back to the first classes in pencil shading that we'd done, and all that pencil yoga and all. really nice. It's turning out great. Okay, at this point now, we can start painting. Okay, shall we start painting this now? I'm using a medium size brush and I will try to match the colors to some extent, but I'm not going to be too hung up on that. I think for the sake of it to be painted well, let's give the background the same color also. Now I'm rethinking it. I'm not making that line between the two panels in the background though. That can remain. But without the background, I think our subjects would look rather bare. So I'll use the same color that I see in the background. Do you want me to give you a color breakup of this? Or do you want to try mixing the colors yourself?
I think it looks rather okay.
You should, no? You'll be
Yeah,
able.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I can see an Indian red and and maybe a what is that? Yellow ochre,
Yeah, I think
wash
you
consistency.
correct. And like I say, no, there are many
Yeah,
ways.
there are many ways. Exactly.
What is that saying? There are many ways to find Mohammed or something like that. I know a horrible one that says there are many ways to skin a cat, and I would never do
Yes.
that. But this is not skinning a cat. This is finding something. So whatever nice saying, idiom we can use, please use that and find it. So here again, this is a mistake I'm making. You can in many places go over these objects even when you're doing wash. And we rarely do this kind of painting. We do very specific painting. So except for the blues, you can use this warm tone to go over much of the painting. And very light as well. So leave the highlights and everything else we can paint in this tone. This was how watercolor was intended to be used when it was invented. To make sketches before you made your final painting. And I think watercolor was also invented much after oil paints. in the hierarchy, or no, in the history or age of painting, I should make a family tree of this also. I love the idea of it. So we must have had pencils came after oil paints as well. So we first had how we have learned our using tools has been an exact reverse order of their evolution. The tools that we use today very easily, like pencil, crayons, pastels, all of that was invented much later. And I guess it was meant to be easier to use. And that is why those are our first go to tools. And then you have the more difficult ones like oil painting. Those come much later because those were the original tools that we used, other than, of course, ink. And we don't do any wall paintings anyway now, so no cave paintings yet. But if we decided to, then that would be going even further in history and using earthen colors and spraying all that color with our mouth and all. Absolutely very, very raw techniques, but they're still there. So, this is also a very interesting study in monochrome. You can take more and more of this color and keep adding shadows, deepening the contrast, even in just one sepia tone. In this case, now the vase happens to give us the opportunity to study that. So that's great. But even if it weren't, all of these objects can be painted in the same tone, and you can study uh, you can do a tonal study of this painting. In tonal studies, you realize that you are often very conservative when it comes to putting color down. I know how conservative I have been, simply thinking that if I add any more color, it's just going to make it too dark and too chatak. So, oh, this is enough, this is enough. And then um, when I've shown this to an expert, they will go and bindas put 5 more layers on it, and nothing happens, and everything just looks greater and greater. So, in a sense, we are being overcautious.
Actually, when you watch these painters who do landscapes, and in urban sketching, every time I go for urban sketching, especially in Bombay, there are one or two people in the group whose proficiency levels are really, really high. And I mean, it inspires me to watch them do it because they are looking at exactly the same thing I'm looking at. Often I'm close by because I'm obviously drawing something they are doing as well. But I look at their work and I wonder how they see certain things I did not see, or how they could portray light in a better way, even though that light is not so great when I'm looking at the whatever they're sketching.
Yeah.
They are able to visualize brighter light and they're able to show it nicely. Whereas me, I'm not able to, unless the light is really bright and I'm sitting under the hot sun and the sun is hitting the object so brightly, can I see the shadows and the light and dark and all that? They can see it even with mild sunlight.
Yeah, it's almost as if they know that it's there.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and you feel only after they painted it, you start seeing it. That
Yeah,
happens very often. That's so
exactly.
true.
Exactly. And then they just slap it on, huh? They just take like a big fat brush. And I'm
Yeah,
like, where are you? What are you starting with such a huge brush? I cannot even
correct.
understand.
Yeah.
And they just take it and they slap on this paint that falls like in rivulets down the paper. I'm like, really? You could have just
Yeah.
left it at, first of all, the sketch was no great shakes. And then they go putting blue all over the blue is dripping into everything. I mean, how are you going to show this? How are you going to show that? The sky goes into everything. Everything.
I think also when I've seen certain landscape artists paint, they it's like they're speaking a completely different language, and yet at the end of the day they manage to communicate exactly what you're seeing, and you
Exactly.
have no idea, even after watching them, you have no idea how they did
How.
it.
Correct.
Yeah,
So I had
Absolutely.
the same experience, Suzanne, Aditi, when we were in Jaipur and she was doing a demo, in the flower market. I'm like, I mean, I was thinking, my eyes are more younger than her, but I cannot see what she's
oh, that's sweet.
It's like watching that cricket match, no? And you say that ball, like, just hit it a little harder, man. It'll go
Yeah.
for a. No. I mean,
Correct.
you could not hit that ball to save your life, but
Agreed, yes.
but
Yet
you
you
know,
want to advise.
yeah, absolutely. Just had to do that. Just had to do this, and perfect. You could have played that whole match single-handedly.
Correct. Oh God, is that your cat, Alka?
No,
No, it is my child.
yeah, I
Oh,
sound like a child.
for a moment I was scared that a cat had come. Yesterday there was an errant pigeon in our house.
Oh my God.
Not inside the house. It was like I could call him Colonel Pigeon because he was just walking about as if he already owned the place and he had just come to scout what is happening. How is this place? Where should I build my
Yeah.
building in this beautiful location? And he was here the entire morning, and that was very spooky. So I thought, what is this now? Maybe cat has also come.
No. Children can sound like cats.
Children
Yeah,
can, I think,
yeah,
but there was a theory, someone said that cats have evolved to sound like kids so that they can gain sympathy. Because wild cats often don't meow. It's only domestic
yeah.
cats that meow
Yeah. Yeah.
like human kids. Isn't that amazing?
And here I'm shouting every day, "Yeah, you're not a cat, you're not a dog. Speak every single day. Speak. Don't give me sounds."
Khana.
We're domesticating our kids.
That's a good one. Domesticated kids. So now, as you go layer by layer, you'll notice how many different colors you are using to arrive
Yeah, I
at
know that.
one shade.
Too early.
Actually, the more you mix colors, the more you realize you need very few colors. You do not need like 15 greens.
Correct.
You just need to have red, blue, green, or yellow, and then you can do just anything with your red, blue, green.
Practically
Really,
everything.
really, it is. I did this once as an exercise. Three primary, cool primaries and three warm primaries. You know, Daniel Smith comes with a set of six
Uh-huh.
cool and warm primaries. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they cost an arm and a leg, but that's all I could afford at that point in time. So I got myself the three primaries, cool and warm, six,
Uh-huh.
and I challenged myself to say without anything else, with just these six, I'm going to do an entire scenery, everything
Mm.
about that scenery.
Mm.
And it was really, really nice to see that you could do the entire thing.
Mm.
Absolutely. Fully. Of course, Black would have been nice at the very end, but that apart, I guess
But that's
95,
okay.
98%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like just the finer contrast I think you might have achieved.
Yeah.
But so you're telling me that you made that scenery using three primaries? That's it?
The no, the warm and the cool versions of every primary color. So six colors essentially.
Six,
So I
huh?
had
But
a
only
warm and cool
primary.
blue, warm and cool red, warm and cool yellow.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah. I
Great
needed the warm and the
exercise.
cool. Very nice exercise.
How are your still lives looking? Satisfactory?
There. Yes.
For the dark bottle,
Can you see it?
you might have to use all sorts of colors. If you're not getting the shade, just tell me. I will help you if you need the help.
It's black and
No, don't use
red.
black. Avoid using black in the beginning. You will be able to get a nice deep brown color without adding black first.
I think I remember getting this color for chocolate brownie.
Oh yeah? Oh, yeah, you could use that as well.
ना काजल खरीदनी तो नहीं है कल वाली है हाँ? कल वाली है 1 किलो की लेके आ
When you're making the spoon, again, don't use black. Try using blues first. It's been a while since we've done metal, no? We haven't done metal last all of this year, I think. So this color that I'm using to create shadows in the fabric is a cobalt blue mixed with black, which is going over that earlier background color that we had made. Okay, so you guys think you can complete this? It's almost 11:30. So before we end, I just wanted to request everyone. Earlier, I was speaking with Alka and Ritika before you joined in, Zai and Susan. That now over the years, you must have also got some 3-4 books of what we've done in the past. If you get the time, could you just do like a flip over and a slight voiceover about the stuff that you have done, that you've enjoyed, which I just want to compile together and maybe use in social media with or without voiceover, so that it's just a showcase of everything that we've done and how maybe it has helped you. So I'm trying to get some feedback. As it happens that all the new students who join in have all sorts of questions, and spending time in telling everyone, I sometimes forget to tell certain things. I just want to make one video of all this, that okay, what does it mean we make different topics every month, so then I can just put that in the video and do like a video of all the FAQs, no more than about 3 minutes, and share it with every new student. And then the flip throughs would be nice even for us to put on social media once in a while, student work, class work, and things like that. Okay, so you can make one flip through for each book that you make and either email it to me, because WhatsApp will reduce the quality, I think. So best to just email, and then I'll just put it in the archive, and then some point we'll use it on social media. Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
So that's it. I'm gonna finish this picture and put it up later on the group so you can see how it works. But because remember, these are supposed to be sketches, I would encourage you to make a few more layers than you think are enough. So keep going back and forth. Paint it, go away, do something else, come back, and look at the original image. Look at the intensity of color, sharpness and darkness of shadows, and go back onto your painting and make it again. So you'll start filling in more and more layers of that also. Okay, all
Okay.
right. So that's all. Finally, we finish our 4 for objects. And the Mayan art, are you all finishing it, or are we to make it together, paint it together? I think you can.
And
Do you want to paint it together, or do you want to finish it yourselves?
I think we can finish it. It's quite
yeah.
straightforward.
You can, no? Because I will be finishing, but I will make a process video of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you will be at least able to see
Yeah.
quickly what I'm doing. Maybe
Yeah.
not with the voiceover, but at least you'll know how to proceed.
Yeah. Yeah.
ठीक है ना?
That's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay,
Okay.
chalo.
Thanks.
All
Happy
right.
Bye bye.
Monday. See you next
Have a nice
week.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next week. Bye. Bye. Thank you.